It's not another Buffalo podcast. With Jon.
All you people out there who are like, these idiots don't know anything. First of all, you're right. And second of all,
Pat.
Like, why? It's like, you ever watch Arrested Development where George Bluth Sr.'s crying? And he's like, why does Oscar have hair and I have money? Why can't I have money and have hair and Oscar have nothing?
And Brando.
If Eli Manning can beat an undefeated New England Patriots team, then I can do anything that I want in this world.
On Buffalo Rumblings.
welcome back to Not Another Buffalo Podcast. I'm Jon. I'm here with my buddies Pat and Brando. We're here on a Wednesday afternoon. We figured we'd record a little bit closer to our release time this week because, you know, a couple things happened last week of slight significance. But this episode is brought to you by Small City Realty. If you're looking to buy, sell, or manage property in Western New York, you got to contact Jkorz at Small City Realty. That's 585-409-1088. And tell them that the boys from NABP sent you. And by the Jkorz Agency for all your insurance needs. This is the Buffalo Rumblings podcast. You can find us on all platforms at Not Buff Podcast because we're all not buff. Gentlemen, how we doing? What you guys been up to this week? Anything good?
Tennis season started today, so hitting some balls. That's about it.
Is it getting nice out up there?
It was 58 and sunny and windy today.
Nice. We just hit our warmest in a while. It's 73 degrees out right now, so
oh my God.
I got to get out there and
I would kill somebody for it to be 73 degrees. Not really. Big
Baller Beans has been a little bit busy here. We got a lot of moves to cover. And honestly, there might be more before this episode comes out. So apologies again. It's Wednesday afternoon right now. Friday morning, this episode will come out. Where do you guys want to start?
Let me go through all the transactions, but you're going to have to give me 2 breaths. I need 2 breaths for this. Okay. Here we go. As of 4 p.m., Wednesday, March 13th. Okay. We signed quarterback Mitch Trubisky, linebacker Nicholas Morrow, wide receiver Matt Collins. We have re-signed O-line David Edwards, punter Matt Hawk, Matt Hawk. Safety Taylor Rapp, tight end Quentin Morris, DB Cam Lewis, D-end AJ Epinesa, D-tackle Daquan Jones.
That was on
extended after being fake released and then re-extended Deion Dawkins. We restructured / reworked Connor McGovern, Rasul Douglas, Von Miller, Dawson Knox, Josh Allen. Shout out to Von Miller and Dawson Knox taking pay cuts to help the team. We have released running back Nyheim Hines, Jordan Boyer, Saran Neal, Mitch Morris, Deontay Hardy, Trey White, womp, womp, womp. And then we traded O-lineman Ryan Bates.
So, you know, of course, half of those guys have already signed with the Miami Dolphins since being cut. And also Trey White being released on there. I think you just listed that one. He just posted that message that you were talking about. I haven't seen that yet.
It's sad. Don't watch it if you want to cry.
It's so sad. That one almost kills me the most because, you know, Jordan Poyer, he had a great career here and he played for a lot of years. And he was able to mostly stay on the field, at least not injury free. I mean, the guy was playing with a punctured lung. And I don't know if you guys saw that recent picture of him where his shoulders were showing, and it looks like I forget whatever joint
it's your AC joint.
AC joint. It's been through a lot, man. The poor guy has put his body on the line repeatedly, and I can't thank him enough. There's a part of the fan base that seems like it is hating on Jordan for making that decision to go to Miami. I can't hate on the guy at all.
He could have done it last year and he came back.
Yeah, and he didn't. And he came back and, you know, he drove himself to Kansas State. I'm not going to hate on the guy for going to Miami and trying to get one last paycheck before he retires because, you know, he feels like he's got a little bit in the tank left.
Well, the question is, do you think he starts? I mean, I don't even know if he's going to be a starter.
Yes. He'll start. I think he'll start.
I would think so. But again, whether that's the entire season or to start the season, or it depends on their draft too, I'm sure.
Well, he gets to go home. He gets to play without an income tax. And believe it or not, playing in weather that's not -5 degrees outside, which is funny because the Dolphins did play a game like that last year. But, you know, the majority of your games in nice weather is going to do a lot for his body, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So let's run down. Let's just get some instant reactions from some of those. Can we run down the list, Brando, just with like we don't have to do all of them, but just like the headline ones, maybe like the top half of those.
Let's talk about this one first because I didn't put it on here, but because we didn't release him, we just didn't re-sign him. But losing Gabe Davis to Jacksonville, what do you think about that? $39 million was $13 million a year for Gabe Davis to go to Jacksonville and be the number 2 guy. Number 3 guy, Christian Kirk. Kelvin Ridley signs with Tennessee today. You have Evan Ingram, who had a massive amount of targets, and Travis Etienne. So very similar to Buffalo's build. I think Jacksonville might even be in the market for another wide receiver to really slot Gabe like he was a couple years ago in Buffalo as the number 3/4.
Well, I guess my couple word reaction would be very expensive third option at wide receiver. He got paid like a number 2 wide receiver.
Yep.
So if that's what they believe he can be, I'm going to tie this in with Mac Hollins, because I think that Mac Hollins is cheaper Gabe Davis with Troy Polamalu hair. Like,
he's a little bit bigger than Gabe too.
Mac is huge. He's a physical
huge
freak.
guy.
And
if you were worried about the Bills not having an outside guy to back up the starting outside guys, then yeah. And again, he's not going to be wide receiver 2. He's not going to go get all the targets that Gabe Davis was. He's probably going to be like wide receiver 4, 3-4.
You hope
option
so.
3-4.
Yeah. You have 2 guys now, because Justin Shorter is kind of the same build, right? 6'3", 6'4". But this is what I was thinking about, interesting about Gabe. Well, he's going home again in the Florida taxes. He's making $13 million. He's making another 2.5 more than he would if he signed that same deal in Buffalo. So good for him on that. His gym that he opened, the Draft Academy, is located north of Orlando, very close to where he will be living now in Jacksonville. And the other part that I think is cool, that he gets to reunite with Chad Hall, Bill's former wide receivers coach. Something that I really haven't heard said very much. And they all loved him, right? It was Davis and Diggs were really driving the bus behind getting him a car, right? The truck that they bought him. And it was really those 2 guys that I'm sure there's other people involved, but
the only person who I saw who mentioned that was actually Cole Beasley on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I didn't see that. But yeah, it's something to say about, as a coach, to want to play with that guy, right? You want to have your guy. He was his best with Chad Hall, we would say, right? So
a lot of these guys were.
To see how they utilize him will be cool. Jacksonville, I was on the train last year. I had a lot of Jacksonville players in fantasy, and looks like it could be another place to be this year if Trevor Lawrence can stay healthy. But So other than that, I mean, we're looking at Mitch Trubisky, Josh's buddy again. It's got to be cool to be a good backup quarterback in this league and also be friends with Josh Allen, because you're going to get a job. So
you're going to get paid.
Yeah. David Edwards, I think that his conversation is funny because he signs the 29th highest guard paying salary. And then all of a sudden, 3 hours later, he's starting at left guard.
Right. So that's obviously a corresponding move, right? So they're presumptively moving David Edwards to starting guard and then moving Connor McGovern over to center, right?
But it's funny. You sign him as a depth piece. You sign him to back up money. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. I got a good backup here.
So maybe he wasn't in on this, right?
You hope that they filled him in on this, that you will be starting now, but we're not going to tell you because you're going to sign for $1.5 million per year. But I think, they have to tell him, right? They have to know.
Right.
So,
You don't think that they're going to try to go draft another guard in the second round and see if they can get as lucky this year? Do you think that might be it? I mean,
2 Osiris Torrances would be amazing.
But it would be, probably, but not as amazing as 2 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds. You'll never get me off that idea until the draft is over.
This is a good point, though, because Dallas built their O-line, right, when Dak was young. They made 5 years in a row they drafted an O-lineman in the top 3 rounds of the draft.
Right.
And here's the kicker. Is it the chicken before the egg? Can any wide receiver get open with 5 seconds of pass blocking time?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of hard because you have CD Lamb who's going to get open.
But they didn't. Think about when they
had
first,
Michael Gallup and stuff, a bunch of
Michael Gallup and
Amari
Witten and Cooper. But think about it. If you're a wide receiver, if you're Justin Shorter or you're Michael Gallup or KJ Hamler or KJ Osborne, these guys on the fringe, you should be good if you have 5 seconds to get open. Because no DB can cover for 5 seconds, I think. I think it's way more to ask.
Right.
So is that worth, for Josh's help to improve the passing game, more than a third round wide receiver?
Yeah, and this is where we get to, this is why the Mitch Morse move surprised me so much, because this offensive line last year, it was the same starting 5 the entire year. So that wasn't a guarantee that they were going to get that lucky for this next coming year. But they were constantly really high up in rankings everywhere you saw for pass blocking statistics. They were consistently top 5 in pass blocking. So it's not like you're trying to build that awesome pass blocking line for the future. It's like you already had it last year. You definitely had it. The Cowboys are usually pretty high in that metric as well. That's why I was like, why are you making changes to this? And I get it. It's all salary cap logistics and stuff like that. But
they basically save $7 million because you save the $9 million and you give $2 million to David Edwards.
Gotcha.
I don't know, just food for thought. I thought, you give Josh more time. Can an average wide receiver get open? Or do you?
I mean, that's the goal, right? But even a bad offensive line is going to give Josh time a couple times a game. If you have a guy that can consistently get open, like that DB's going to win if he's not a very talented wide receiver. Yeah. Give me the dynamic pass catcher on a cost controlled contract. Yeah. Because again, the growth curve of wide receivers, and this is generalizing, right? Wide receivers tend to get to elite status a lot quicker than offensive linemen. Offensive linemen, you mostly won't see them blossom until like 3, 4, 5 years down in their career. Most of the time. There's exceptions, of course, but wide receiver, like you might get 5 star-studded years if you look at some of these guys that have been drafted. Like you're not going to fall up into a Jamar Chase every year, but your best offensive, Puka Nacua. I mean, he's a.
We did this trivia last year: the 1,000-yard tight ends, 1,000-yard rookie wide receivers, and they're all in the last 6 or 7 years that have just been outstanding. So it's just you're getting an out of the box. Batteries included, no assembly required, Christmas present that can just go.
Yeah. Yeah. It might be something about how the college game is just like, it's more similar for wide receivers, college to pros. Like there's less of a transition there than there is for an offensive lineman maybe. But
well, I heard some conversation about this though too. And I feel like, I don't know, in today's day and age, it's like you have your best athlete not really wanting to play, if you're not playing quarterback, like there's a lot of kids in today's world that are a lot more reluctant to play running back and stuff too. So I feel like, just the talent pool itself at wide receiver probably is a little bit higher and, whatever. I mean, we ran it. We weren't very good at it, but like high schools now, doing a lot of spread stuff. These kids, a lot of reps.
That's a good point, Pat. And they talked about this on GR also, which was funny because they were kind of insulting the old heads, the old regimes. And they were like, running backs, nobody wants to pay running backs. And they're like, but look at these running backs clean up right now. Josh Jacobs getting a huge deal. Saquon getting a big deal. Aaron Jones getting re-signed again with Minnesota. And you got Pollard and
Derrick Henry going to Baltimore. Yeah.
And they did this terrifying. Yeah, that could be good. That could work out. Or he could just be old.
Or he tears his ACL.
Yeah.
Well, and again, that can happen to anybody, but the market is crazy right now compared to where it was last year. Devin Singletary contract that he just signed.
Zach Moss got a deal too.
Yeah, Zach Moss also starting running back in Cincinnati. I don't know where the market is with running backs and the value that you get. I'm just like, keep letting these teams sign these guys that only might have 3 or 4 years left before they fall off a cliff or less. Let Atlanta sign Kirk Cousins to this monster contract that's going to make Kirk Cousins one of the highest paid quarterbacks by the time his career is done. Because twice now, I mean, he reset the quarterback market a couple of years ago when he signed his deal in Minnesota.
He's had 2 deals with Minnesota, I think.
Probably. I don't remember which one was which, but
both of them crazy.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins is like this is the best option for a win now mode. And if you're Atlanta, like maybe that's just the new coaching regime coming in and saying we need to make the playoffs after year 1 or 2. None of these teams have the patience to build from the ground up, and because you can't just get a Josh Allen and build your regime from there within a year or 2. Like it takes a couple of years, and we're thankful that Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane had enough time here because they made the playoffs in the first year, so they got that. But that's not a granted. That was a long shot, and they cleaned out the roster the first year and had so much dead cap that. It was a mess, but.
Well, there's a famous clip of Brandon Beane saying, if I don't get a quarterback, I'm fired.
Right.
And if I miss on this quarterback, I'm fired. So I have to at least give myself a shot. And that's why he traded so much to move up.
Right.
Which is, smart. But they were talking, what the point was they're like this too high safeties look is slowing down passing in the NFL. So now everybody's kind of digging a little bit more into the defensive side. And now these guys are like, let's counter it with the run game. So they're like, let's run the ball more. Let's do this more. And, you got a Jordan Love on a rookie deal still, barely. Well, he's got, 1 year left on a 5th-year option?
Right.
And he's got a lot of young receivers, but they need O-line help. They could use defense help. But instead, they sign Aaron Jones, or they get rid of Aaron Jones and sign Josh Jacobs. Like, what are you doing?
They were on the team for like both of them too for like 40 minutes. People were going nuts, I guess, in Green Bay. They were like, this is the greatest duo ever. But
so it's like, what are you doing? So just, asset management is always interesting to see how people think they can do it better than the other. What do we know?
Right.
We just talk on a podcast.
Exactly.
All right, let's look down here. It's nice to have Daquan back. You talked about that wanting to be your free agency signing.
He was my wish list guy, so I'm happy with that. I'm glad he's back.
The other part, we talked about Trey a little bit when I was talking about Stephon Gilmore, and you're like, Trey's that answer for us. Trey's that answer for it. Do you remember this?
But Trey, yeah. Well, I said
and
Trey
it was so sad. It was so sad. Literally 24 hours later.
Trey would be a great insurance policy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like he would be a great cornerback 3 because then you don't have to worry about the injuries or anything like that. But he might not even be playing like ready to play this year. We don't know what the future of his career looks like. Honestly, if I had to guess, I'm just going to think that he retires because that coming back from his ACL was you could tell that took such a mental toll on him. It's going to be that and a little bit harder after tearing his Achilles.
Way harder to heal Achilles than an ACL.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's going to have, he's got kids, he's got a family. If I were him, I don't know if I'd go through that again either.
How much guaranteed money was in his deal? Enough
I'm not
to
sure.
Be okay, right? Because he was the highest paid corner in NFL history for like 2 weeks. But anyways,
I forgot who got signed after him. But
right.
Yeah, it's sad. Right. Yeah. He's, oh my God, Trey White Goalie Academy, just as a guy, like he was one of the first guys. You guys remember watching the Embedded series on YouTube when they first started doing that? Man, his career arc hurts the most. I was saying this earlier. I think even more than Jordan Poyer because of what was left on the table, like of what he wasn't able to accomplish because of stupid injuries, because of turf in Detroit, because of, these circumstances outside of his control. And that sucks. And that's got to hurt for him. Cause it hurts for us as Bills fans. It especially has to hurt for him, but.
And on a total like non-personal heartless note, now the Mahomes trade is really dead because I think the only player that we got from that trade that might still be here in the ripple effect is Dion. I don't know if that was part of it.
I can't remember. That's a good thought.
Everybody else is gone because I saw the picture. It was like all of the players the Bills got for.
Yeah, because
from that move,
Saron Neal was part of that too. Yeah. Actually, I think the Saron Neal pick was. Can't remember the other ones, but
we still have Josh. So.
Yeah.
Anyways,
still got Josh.
Let's not talk about this anymore.
2024, we still got Josh. That's the slogan.
And trading Ryan Bates is interesting because he signs with the Bears in the offseason a couple years ago, and they go right back to him. And I think if you're trading Mitch Morris cutting Mitch Morris, trading Ryan Bates is kind of a head scratcher.
You gotta stop calling him Mitch Morris, man. It's Mitch Morris.
Mitch Morse? I thought it was Mitch Morris.
No, man.
I've never said his name right then.
Morse, like Morse code.
Mitch Morse. Sorry, Mitch. Mr. Mitch. I've called you the wrong name my entire time talking on here. Sorry, Mitch. Well, anyways, if they were going to cut you, they should have kept Ryan, or they get rid of Ryan and they should have kept you. I'm talking to you, Mr. Mitch. So I don't know. That was a weird name, but that was a weird move. But
yeah,
Saran Neal going to Miami, big time. Nyheim Hines, did we see if he got a deal somewhere? Is he playing anywhere?
Yeah, Nyheim Hines got signed
Cleveland?
by.
Yep, they signed Nyheim Hines to a 1-year deal. He'll be there next year. Who else is there running back room?
The ghost of
Nick Chubb.
Right, yeah, Nick Chubb's coming back from an ACL injury.
That's true. Ford is there. Ken Dorsey, they reunite with Ken Dorsey and Jameis Winston to Cleveland.
Yeah, I did see
that. To back up Deshaun Watson.
Where does Joe Flacco? Maybe he just hangs him up. But
he has to be, right?
Yeah. I would love a Jameis Winston redemption arc here, but
me too. I think it's a good place to do it if Deshaun flames out,
which is likely. I feel like,
but still a lot of big names left in free agency. Chase Young still there. Stephon Gilmore, Levi Wallace, Hollywood Brown, Marquise Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have any more money, but it's like
I think this is the first year that I'm like I like. Any other year, I'd be like, oh, shoot, we can't sign anybody. We're going to be like, but we have 11 draft picks right now. I'm so excited about the draft and bringing in these young rookies. Like, it seems like the rookie classes get more and more NFL ready every year.
Yep.
And maybe that's just recency bias because we've seen the Chiefs win a Super Bowl with a bunch of rookies playing significant roles. But, I'm not like trade all these picks away for the future and only take, the philosophy recently has been like, we're not going to need 11 draft picks. There's no way 11 draft picks make the team. Well, this might be the year that more rookies make the team than any of the past 3 years, even though we've had a pretty established roster because of all the veteran positions that are going to be up for grabs at this point. So they could use young offensive line depth. They could use a hot new young safety, even though they kind of presumably signed Taylor Rapp to be a starter. We still don't really know. I mean, like Micah Hyde is kind of in limbo, right? His deal has expired, and they haven't talked about bringing him back or anything like that. So I don't know where his head's at.
You see him go back.
He could. Yeah. He could. Yeah, man. I'm like, just give me 3 different wide receivers in this draft.
Yeah, and one of them that is not labeled as a pass catching running back.
Right, exactly. Don't convince me of a new pass catcher. We're good at tight end. We're solid at don't get another tight end and call him a pass catcher.
Get
Dalton
Brian
Kincaid's
Thomas Jr.
Awesome.
He's my guy, I think. I'm on his bandwagon. 4'3", 40, 6'4".
That's the guy from LSU.
Yes, LSU.
Yeah, two of the best in the NFL right now, LSU guys. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
And you see what Joe Brady did with 2 elite wide receivers at LSU as a coordinator, passing game coordinator, whatever he was. But it just makes your job so much easier. Make it easy for Josh, please, and Stephon. Let Steph age gracefully here. If you're rolling into next year, if it doesn't work and the board falls, I don't know. Like this year when the board's going wide receiver, and we can't get one. Go get it. Go move up.
That's why we got 11 picks, though.
Yeah, we do have enough picks to move up. So my bet is this: I'm willing to bet that the Bills go 2 wide receivers at least in the first 4 rounds. Would you say that that's likely?
No, because I think when you're talking about what it's going to cost to move up, the last 2 years
they might lose a 2nd or 3rd round pick to move up in the 1st round. You're saying
it's cost them a 4th round pick to move up 2 spots. Right. So if you package a 3rd and 2 fourths with your 1st, you might get up to like 18, 19, maybe if you find a team that's desperate enough. But you're going to have to give up some assets. Is it a 2nd rounder next year and then a couple fourths? How high do you want to go? How high do you need to go? We should do that as an episode. We should go through and look at the teams ahead of the Bills and say, is this team likely to draft a wide receiver? Like they were talking about this somewhere. It's like, is Jacksonville going to draft a wide receiver because they pick ahead of the Bills? It's like, probably not, because they got Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram. Is Detroit likely? I think Detroit picks like 1 spot ahead of Buffalo, maybe. The Lions could use a receiver. Is who else? You name them. Are the Colts going to draft a wide receiver? Are the Raiders going to draft a wide receiver? Are the Chargers, after releasing Mike Williams, going to draft a wide receiver? Are the Patriots going to draft a wide receiver? Like all these teams in front of the Bills, are you likely? Where do you have to get on the board to get your guy?
I almost kind of don't want Brandon Beane to trade up at all in this draft. Let me tell you why. Bear with me, because I know they have a lot of picks. They got a lot of ammo to move up, right? But I'd rather have darts on the dartboard, because that seems like the way to win the draft these days. Because when you trade up, you're trusting that your intel on these players or your judgment of these players
is better than anyone else.
It's better than the next guy.
It's a little cocky, right?
Right. Well, and you have to believe in your scouting and your scouting department and your judgment of players, right? But you're always going to be wrong no matter what. Nobody is right 100% of the time when it comes to the draft. I mean, like I'm looking at last year's draft, right? So we trade up to get Dalton Kincaid because he's our guy, and that pick has looked like it worked out great.
Except for the fact that Sam Laporta is taken right behind him.
Yeah. Right. I picked 34, and you could have stayed put and gotten your pick of those guys and retained whatever ammo you used to trade up, which is a 4th round pick. And you're like, oh, it's just a measly 4th round pick, but it's not an NHL 4th round pick. This is like, a 6th round pick. Yeah. Matt Milano was a 5th round pick.
Siron Neal. Right.
Yeah, all these guys who become valuable contributors, they can come from any of these rounds. Really.
I mean, Stephon Diggs is a 5th round pick even.
Exactly. So I'm not even willing to trade a 4th at this point to move up. Like, just stay put and take all your draft picks. If you want to like take a 7th round pick to move up to get your guy in the 6th round or the 5th round, or move up in the 4th round because the amount of ammo needed to do that is exponentially less than moving up in the first round, do that. But like stay put in the first round. It is exponentially less.
I feel like the Bills are in a good
massively
position
less,
for younger players too, because I mean, even Khalil Shakir, we were like, whatever, he's a 5th rounder and he didn't even have to play right away. And I feel like that's an advantage too. If you are throwing darts on the dartboard, that like, you know, obviously this team has holes more so than years past, but like, I mean, I guess, you know, the good thing is with all those picks, some guys that might not be immediate contributors, that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you've got room on the roster to develop at this point, because your roster isn't gonna be full of career special teamers as much this year. Like those guys, there's not gonna be as many of those guys around. Yeah, it's just crazy looking at some of these draft picks. And there's so much value in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. Tank Dell was a 3rd round pick last year. Arguably arguably the best wide receiver to come out of this draft. Was not one of the first 5 taken. So remember that run on wide receivers?
Puka Nacua would argue with that, but also as a 3rd round pick.
Like Puka Nacua had the best production, right? I think Tank Dell is a little bit more talented. Puka Nacua kind of ended up being a perfect fit in LA, but
the perfect fit with his talent that he had already.
That's true.
I feel like we just don't watch him enough because he's so far over on the West Coast, but I kind of dug into his highlights a little bit, and he's good. He's very good.
Yeah. Running back for the Dolphins, A-Chain was a star this year, fantasy star, 3rd round pick 84.
The running back's a whole different ballgame.
Well, and he had the 2nd highest yard per carry in the Super Bowl era for a season, which is insane too. But Devon A-Chain, you suck. You burned us a couple times, but
I got him on my Madden League team, and he's a 98, I think. 4 years.
He's fast, dude. He is fast.
It's I agree with you. You gotta, especially in a deeper class. But I really think, you know, we say this, and maybe it's a hockey thing too, but superstars win you championships.
Yeah.
At certain levels. And the difference between a Justin Jefferson and I don't want to say Steph Diggs, but I'm just going to use that as an example for this past season. Like Jefferson's putting up almost 1,800 yards, a ton of touchdowns, never gets shut down. I mean, he could have a backup quarterback if Kirk Cousins is out, and he can still come in with 150 yards and a half if he wants to. And I'm not trying to slander Diggs. Just give me another receiver that's like at 1,000 yards, like a Stevie Johnson, right? Like a receiver that is good, but he's not a top 20 guy. Is a difference than a guy that is top 2, top 3. So I understand your thing about the darts on the wall, but if we're taking a number 1 wide receiver, he needs to be able to have a ceiling of a top 5 guy, I think, because you're looking for somebody to replace Diggs in a couple of years. And I think by having the darts on the board, you lower your chance at that. Maybe you might be looking at a couple 900-yard guys, but you might not win a Super Bowl with a couple 900-yard guys, whereas you might, you know, I don't know. Who knows? This team building is different for everybody. But you know what I mean, though? You know what I'm saying?
Again, that's all based in the fact that you think you can pick out that guy is going to be a superstar, because Justin Jefferson was not taken first overall. No. If you redraft all these things, then you might take an A.J. Brown in the 1st round rather than the 2nd round. You might take a Justin Jefferson pick number 1. I don't remember who else was in his draft, but like...
And I'm just saying though too, like how good are the Vikings really? I mean, if you look at the Chiefs, the only guy they have over 1,000 yards. I mean, like I'm just saying, like you wouldn't say. I mean, Travis Kelce obviously is pretty good, but you're not like, oh, Rashid Rice he's a world beater. Like I feel like wide receivers in today's, I don't know. I feel like it's not really. I feel like it's back to the Troy Smith, David Givens, Deion Branch, Tom Brady winning ugly games era. Like I really don't know how much merit
Kansas City just showed you that, right?
Yeah.
Well, they did with their defense, right? Yeah. But they also like let's set aside the playoffs for a second and look at the regular season that they had. It was a grind to get there. It was not the high-powered offense that made it much easier for them to glide to the playoffs in the past. So yes, the outcome was that they won the Super Bowl, but it wasn't as easy. And it was because of their defense, but wouldn't it have been easier for them if they still had Tyreek Hill? They just couldn't fit it in because of the cap. But Rashid Rice was their shot at that high-powered receiver. He just doesn't turn out to be that superstar, right?
Well, you know what?
He's only a rookie, too. I mean, he could be.
Exactly. He could be next year, too.
The swap really is Chris Jones. You have Chris Jones now instead of Tyreek Hill, which won them the Bills game In theory, Allen hits Shakir in the end zone if Chris Jones doesn't push Dawkins back, and he wins them the Super Bowl when he hits Brock Purdy on a pass.
Chris Jones might be the best defensive player of like the past 5 years, not named Aaron Donald.
And they're always in the D tackle. Why can't Luke Kuechly kind of was in the conversation for a minute. Maybe Josh Norman a long time ago was in the conversation. Maybe Gilmore for a minute when he was, up for Super Bowl MVP that one year. But now, John, this kind of goes to what your point is. I'm looking at the 4 wide receivers who were drafted before Justin Jefferson in 2020. Can you name them?
In 2020, I'm not going to be able to name them.
Jamar Chase?
Nope. Now, listen, one of them was just traded. One of them is on a team that we had already talking about right now.
Marquise Hollywood Brown?
Nope.
2020.
One of them has sequencing letters of the alphabet in their name.
That helps.
It does help if you think about it.
Wait, sequencing letters. You mean like the same
CD
letter?
Lamb.
CD Lamb.
Okay. All right. Took me a second.
What about, I'm trying to think here. What was T. Higgins? Maybe, or not T. Higgins. Nope. Oh my God. Yeah. No.
One of them is in jail.
Henry Ruggs.
Yep.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy.
Kevin
Jerry
Ridley,
Jeudy,
maybe?
Yep. Jerry Jeudy, yes. And one more that we don't have. I guess he'd play for New England now. He signed.
Kendrick Bourne?
Nope. Do you want me to just give this one to you? Because I wouldn't even recognize him. Jalen Reagor.
Rager, yeah.
So
yeah, he was on the Eagles for a minute, right?
I think he was drafted by New England and they just re-signed him.
So again,
$1.3 million.
all those guys went before Justin Jefferson, despite everyone's best efforts. Somebody traded up somewhere in those rounds and didn't select Justin Jefferson is what I'm saying. So this is the wide receiver class 2, where there's a lot of people saying that 11 wide receivers could go in this first round.
That's
like
crazy.
You're telling me there's not going to be some value pick at pick whatever 28, 29. What are we picking? 28.
If that's the case, then you shouldn't take a receiver though. If you're getting 11 off the board before you get to you might get a top 10 D tackle available.
Well, and what's really the difference between number 10 and number 15 at that point? Like I feel like
I'm just saying if it's a closed Pandora's box, right? For the most part, you're like, okay, this might be this guy has the traits that we want. Yada, yada, yada. If 8 receivers go off the board before me, and I know that there might be 11 wide receivers with potential first round grades, right? So we get into the first round grades conversation, which is its own whole podcast conversation just in that, these teams don't have 32 first round grades in a draft usually. And that's usually topic of conversation every year. But if there's 8 receivers taken off, like just take your 9th best one, take your best shot at it, but don't trade up. Don't use extra assets to get to the 6th wide receiver on your board, right? Yeah. Or even if the number 1 receiver on your board is still available, like 7 picks ahead of you, and you want to trade next year's 2nd round pick to move up, like I wouldn't do that either, because again, it's a shot in the dark with a little bit of value attached to it, right?
Well, based on the numbers, it's 50-50. It's like Deal or No Deal. You ever watch that show before Price is Right? It's exactly it. Pandora's Box. You're saying that it's Deal or No Deal. And the part that's tricky though is you have to have the infrastructure to make them successful. Like Henry Ruggs, is he going to succeed with the Raiders? Like what are his chances of succeeding with the Raiders? Is Jerry Jeudy going to succeed with Denver with a quarterback on a revolving door? No. Is CeeDee Lamb going to succeed in a system that has a good O-line? So he was built in to succeed. So, I mean, it's kind of like the pick right now, right? For the Bills, you have a line, you have a quarterback. So I think you might have a higher chance to develop somebody than another team. So maybe you're looking like a 65% chance of getting a star as compared to a 50% chance. But I mean, it's not going to move the needle 25 percentage points, right? Well, what do you think?
So we've all agreed that in the 1st and 2nd round, you got about a 50% shot of getting, I don't know how you want to say it, not a superstar, but
a difference maker.
A difference maker on your team.
Yeah. A pass catching.
So why not take 2 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds with your first 2 picks and not trade any picks? Don't trade any picks.
Survey says one of them will hit.
Yeah.
Exactly. And best case scenario, you get 2 wide receivers you get 2, and then you're set for the future for the next 5 years. Bills after Diggs, right?
I like it, John. We just talked ourselves all the way back in a circle back to your original point. That's funny.
I'm telling you, man, like if they don't do it, I'm going to be disappointed.
Me too. I think we have higher than 50-50. That's the only thing, because we have the stuff in place that you need. So that's the only caveat is, do the Bills think they can develop this guy so you don't need to hit 2? And that would be cocky. Would that be cocky? Be cocky mindset from a GM.
I have a backdoor to Bean. My uncle's CPA is Brandon Bean's mom.
Get him on the show.
We'll work that in. Yeah. Oh no, that'd be amazing. He's a little busy this time of year. I don't know if you guys have.
He's got an assistant.
He's got a. Maybe we can get his assistant on the pod.
I was watching NBA draft. Toronto was trying to trade up to take Giannis. Giannis goes, 14 to Milwaukee in his draft year. And maybe Toronto's trying to get up to 12, 13, 14. And their GM, he's sitting in the chair at the edge of the table with his arms crossed. And his assistant's making all the calls. And the GM is just sitting there. He's like, no, that's not the trade I want to do. And then the assistant's answering all the calls. And then the GM's the assistant's they won't do the deal. And he's like, oh. And the GM's call the Pacers. So the assistant's and it's the assistant's doing everything and the GM's just getting all the information back. I wonder what it would look like. It's just cool.
Yeah. Well, and then if you don't get the answer you want, then it's literally the put your mom on the phone. It's put the GM on the phone.
All right. Give me that. Come on. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Well, interesting times to be a Bills fan. It's polarizing either way,
era.
I think.
New era.
Yeah.
This is when we look back at Josh Allen's career and Sean McDermott and Brandon Bean's career, this is the first marker along the way. I feel like, we don't necessarily have a name for it, but
the first marker, you want to know the first marker?
Was it 13 seconds or
13
are you
seconds.
thinking? Yeah.
13 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
13 seconds. So, but this is the second marker where you try to redeem for that. So, sorry, Tony escaped the bedroom door. I don't know how he got it open, but he came
It's
out.
all right. That's all right. It's all right. Hopefully we'll make it all the way through the top 10 this time and not just halfway.
John, before you start your top 10, can I say something real quick as we're talking about eras and moving on to a new era?
Yeah.
The Sabres are inching their way closer to an end of an era here, the end of their playoff drought, as they got to a 3.3% chance, according to your
MoneyPuck.com
Buffalo podcast post. So blowing out the Red Wings in a big time win last night. And I just wanted to say something real quick. And I don't try to talk about my students too much on here, but I was talking to my 6th grade health class the other day about how I wanted to go to the Wings Sabres game. Because I'm a Wings fan, right? So I try to always go see them. And I'm like, I can't. I have my own game. I'm going to miss the game. And it turned out to be a great game to go to. So I walk into school this morning, and the 6th grader's walking through the hallway to his next class. And I always say hi to him. It's like, hey, how you doing? He's like, hey, Mr. H, I got something for you. He's like, we were at the game last night. And he's like, I wanted to give you this, my family and I. He's like, we were sad that you didn't get to come to the game. So we got something for you. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, look at this lineup card. So he pulls out a piece of paper with the lineups. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And he's like, and then look at this. He pulls out a signed Patrick Kane hockey puck in a glass case. It's framed. It's a hockey puck that Pat Kane signed with his picture on the front of it. And he gave it to me. He's like, yeah, we got this for you. We're sorry you missed the game. And I was like,
what? You just got an A in health?
Are you serious? It was the nicest thing I think anybody has ever done for me or thought of. And I was speechless. I was like, I can't believe you guys did this. He's like, yeah, we wanted to give this to you. Sorry you couldn't come to the game. And I'm like, oh my God. My heart, you're so nice. So shout out to my students. Yeah.
Mr. H, quality teacher.
We don't know about that, but we know that the students are cool. So that's all. That's my Sabres update today. Sorry to be a little long-winded on that.
No, you're good. Yeah. You're good. This is a good episode. We're going to have to build a break into this one. So stick with us. We'll be right back after this. We got some John's top 10 and maybe a couple quotes along the way. So stick with us. So I saw this news story and I kind of had to look twice. I don't know if you guys saw, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has apparently reached out to Aaron Rodgers about serving as a potential running mate on a independent presidential ticket this fall.
So they're not like running around the neighborhood at night. They're going to run for elected government.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
I forget who his other potential choice was. It was a Minnesota governor who used to be a pro wrestler.
I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't recognize that guy's name either. Anyway, that had me thinking about a top 10 category for this week. I always try to do something goofy. And so
Jesse Ventura.
Jesse Ventura.
All right.
Yep. Yeah. Any WWE fans, he's kind of a deep cut, I would say. But
I never watched one WWE match in my life. So
shout out to Tim Martell. He'll be very happy, but he would know who Jesse Ventura is. He's
True.
a WWE guy.
Tammer.
So. Nice. He's probably screaming it into his iPhone or whatever he's listening to this on.
He's probably got his vote casted already.
Yeah.
For that man.
Anyway.
Yes. Anyways.
So possible independent presidential ticket this fall. And I don't know, Aaron Rodgers running for vice president. I thought that could kind of lead to some interesting campaign slogans. So the top 10 this week is the top 10 slogans for the Aaron Rodgers Vice-Presidential campaign this year, 2024.
Oh boy.
Yeah, oh boy is right. I held back a little bit, if you can believe that. The top 10 slogans for the Aaron Rodgers Vice-Presidential campaign in 2024. Number 10, make America discount double check again. Number 9, ask not what conspiracies can do for you, ask what you can do to propagate conspiracies. Number 8, the Hail Mary nobody asked for. Number 7, still a better backup plan than Zach Wilson.
Yes.
Number 6, more than a mustache, a movement. Number 5, America's Darkness Retreat 2024.
Ayahuasca for everybody.
Right. Number 4, introducing the third major political party, narcissism.
Isn't that part of the first two as well?
True. Yeah, a little bit. Number 3, make America bake again. Number 2, just get me out of New York. And the number 1 campaign slogan for Aaron Rodgers Vice-Presidential bid, ABB, anything but Brady, baby.
Yep. Next thing you know, it's going to be Brady on the next ballot.
Right. Oh, God. If anything could get worse.
He would be, I'm not going to be partisan with my assumption of how he would run, but I think you guys know. So have either of you started watching the new documentary about Brady and my dad has. He's seen it all. He keeps telling me to watch it, but
I don't want to digress too much here, John. That's a funny list, but
it's the one on Apple TV, right?
Yeah. I've been watching it, and they talk a lot about Robert Kraft a couple times. They talk about how Bill Belichick rips Tom a new one all the time for 20 years. In practice, they'll show Bill Belichick would pull all of the sacks and incompletions and missed throws, and just to start practice all the time, just like cussing up. He's like, this looks like he's playing football out here, whatever. So like anything that they could call him. And Robert Kraft is in this documentary a lot, which Bill is also, which I find interesting because it's not all nice about him. And they always call him Tommy, which is funny. But Robert Kraft's like, Tommy and I had multiple conversations over multiple years about the way Bill treated him. And you know what? Tommy's sensitive. Tommy's a sensitive guy. And Tommy cares. And, his whole life, he's been out to prove that he's good enough. And his whole life, he's had everybody tell him that he's not good enough, whether it's at Michigan with Drew Henson splitting time as a quarterback, and whether it's Drew Bledsoe coming back to play in the playoffs, should they play him for the Super Bowl? And if it's Bill Belichick telling him he's not good enough anymore, and it's winning one in Tampa. And I was just thinking about this poor guy right now. For the first time in my life, I have a little sympathy for him, because Gazelle has now come out and say publicly that now she is dating Giselle. Giselle.
Gazelle. Is that the celebrity antelope from Zootopia?
Yes.
Gazelle.
Great movie. Try Everything by funny. Shakira. It's a jam. Anyways, Gazelle has now publicly come out to say that she is in a relationship with her trainer, something that Tom suspected at the time that they were together. And he just talks about how much he feared being replaced his entire career. And like this poor guy getting replaced again.
You're telling me Tom Brady you're telling me Tom Brady hasn't dated anybody since the divorce?
He's probably destroyed emotionally.
After Robert Kraft's quote was, which would have been funny for quotes with Pat today, but he's like, Tommy's a sensitive guy. And I was like, shut the up, man.
Oh, he is. He's like that kid that's a super good athlete, and then you see his team win by 20 points, and his dad screaming at him on the car ride home. Honestly, TB12, and he is. He's being. Can you imagine? Like you're just Tom Brady, and the Patriots draft Jimmy Garoppolo, and you're like, oh my god, he might take my job, and he
starts winning.
Yeah, and he's handsomer than you.
They go into it on the series because like Bill Belichick loved Jimmy G as a person, as a kid, and they're like,
and as a face, probably.
How could you not?
He's got quarterback face, man.
God, we were talking about this. But they kept talking about the stark difference between how he treated them, and Tom put up with it, and he didn't care. But anyways, I digress. Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady in the presidential election. Who's going to Canada or Mexico or.
Right. I struggle every time I start to feel sympathy for Tom Brady because I feel like that's like second level Stockholm syndrome or something like that. Where it's like, this guy was our tormentor for years. It's not like he's just some guy who's disconnected to us and we can like root for now or anything like that.
No, but doesn't it make you feel good that he kind of like suffered a little bit? Like, that he suffered everyday man problems.
I'm not saying it makes me feel good. I'm just not going to celebrate the guy's wins at all or feel bad for him at this point. So
just too high, humanizes him a little bit, I guess, if nothing else.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Pat. I think that's the most accurate. That's an interesting tidbit, Brando. I'm glad you shared that.
It's worth watching. And I watched Man in the Arena also. It's fascinating. We lived through the whole thing. It's just my football memory starts with watching him, in Michigan. Maybe I wasn't watching him when he was in Michigan. I'm 5 years old, but I remember, coming into the league, Drew Bledsoe, all that sort of stuff. So anyways, Pat, you got any quotes?
People said. My friend Bob Secamano.
It's time for quotes with Pat. They're things that people said.
My timeline looks like a Madden franchise going on. This was a tweet. It was retweeted and reposted like a gazillion times. It's by a player.
Probably a prevalent player.
Is it anybody? Is it one of the Bills players who signed elsewhere this week?
Nope.
No, it's not a Bill. Is it Christian McCaffrey?
Nope.
Any kind of
Tyreek Hill? Is it Tyreek Hill? He plays a lot of Madden.
No, but he's a controversial, polarizing figure, as is Tyreek, but without the domestic violence.
Let's think.
Younger player.
Okay, never mind. Can you read the quote again? Read the quote.
My timeline look like it's a Madden franchise going on.
I was gonna say Joe Mixon, but I guess
his real name is Ahmad.
Oh.
His team made a huge deal last year.
Oh, it's Sauce. It's Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner. Yeah,
that's what his real name is. I forgot.
That's good.
Give me a second.
If his girl is shopping and she's like, "Joshy, try these on," Josh is gonna say, "All right, I'll try these on."
It's Deion Dawkins talking about how Haley and Josh are in love.
Yeah.
He goes on to talk about Josh is in love, man. He'll do anything for this girl. He went on. He's like, he dropped the L word. He's like, I know Josh. He likes this girl. He's in a better place. So like if Haley wants him to try on a pair of pants, he'll try on a pair of pants.
Especially when he rips them in another country.
Yeah. Right. Last week's quotes.
What was he doing?
Oh man.
Let's see.
How do you rip your pants? So I ripped a pair the other day playing scooter hockey, but I'm like on the ground.
In Paris? Playing. I don't know, like second dessert?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. You have to have an absolute giat, yes, to rip your pants.
It doesn't just happen. Especially when you're worth $250 million, you can buy nice pants.
Yeah, like those Lululemon, like you've seen those ones in the commercials?
Yeah, those are nice. I'm not paying for them.
I don't know why that's what came to mind, but I was just...
Those are stretchy golf pants, man.
Josh was at dinner in Paris. He was probably wearing those nice shorts I saw in that commercial. Oh, my God.
All right, I got some more. LOL, yep. You're the prime example of loyalty to a team. I got the deal I wanted, secured more GM, which wasn't given to me before. So if fans are going to hate me for that, so be it. But I never turned my back on my teammates and always had theirs.
It's Saquon Barkley responding to Mr. Tiki Barber, right?
Yeah,
because Tiki Barber was like, "You're dead to me," but Saquon's like, "The Giants didn't want me, so I went somewhere else."
Yeah, that's probably what Tiki's pregnant wife said when he cheated on her with another woman.
Always make it personal. It's strictly business from the Giants. Like, we're gonna pay you 10. We think you're worth 10. Saquon's like, I'm worth 12. I'm gonna go to the Eagles. They're gonna pay me 12. And it was like,
we gotta start doing
on your wife.
It's trivia with Pat for like, okay, name a random NFL player from the 2000s. All right, what was the darkest part of where did they mess up the most? Like, what's that one little detail that you have in your back pocket at any time to pull out against any player?
Oh, that's funny. That's true. I'm coming home. I live about 25 minutes from there during the off season. I've wanted to come to Florida for a long time, and I feel like I'm coming home. I have a lot of respect for Coach Mike McDaniel and his team for a long time. It feels right. I think I'm going to be a perfect fit.
It's Boyer, or is it Rachel Bush?
It's
Rachel
Boyer.
Bush wouldn't say that she's a perfect fit for the Dolphins.
She posted a big thing about it.
Yeah,
going down there too,
whatever, making their daughter seem like she was happy to. Maybe she was, honestly. Maybe Buffalo's not the most fun place to be as a kid, but yeah, those are the quotes.
You can do more outside. That's one thing. Say what you want
true.
about anything. But I said that to Jeremiah. I'm like, you're gonna have more fun in the wintertime down there.
Yeah, slightly less skiing. I think that's the only downside. That's true. Just don't do any jet skiing. That can be potentially dangerous.
Yeah. Right. Well,
CC Naheem Hines.
Well, while we got Florida on the mind here, I just want to bring up something real quick. So I play hockey in a men's league, right? We sponsor the team, the Buffalo Rumblers, starting playoffs next week. And somebody came up to me and they're like, hey, I had a friend from Florida text me. And they're like, what do you know about this podcast? Because it seems like the hockey team, it looks like the same logo. And the guy's like, yeah, I play hockey with that guy. He's like, I know them. I listen. And she's like, oh, I listen to their show in Florida all the time. So, the people in other states that are listening, we appreciate you.
Sweet. I love that.
So
it's always nice.
It's always cool. You never know who's listening.
Yeah.
So appreciate you. We don't exist without you.
That's so much better than a number in, the stats and the analytics and stuff. It's always nice to hear a story like that. It's fun. We love interacting with our listeners. So, well, sweet. You guys got anything else for this one? It's been a long one, but we had a lot to cover. So I'm glad that we got to it. It's certainly going to stay busy here up until the draft. And then, we'll have a little bit of an off period there, but I'm excited. You guys know where to find us on all platforms at Not Buff Podcast. We recently put out a YouTube video of last week's top 10. So if you want to see that in visual form, go ahead. You can see all the posters Pat has on his wall if you're curious. It's pretty cool. It's good. And we'll be back next week on Friday as well. So thank you guys for listening in the off season. And until next week, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.